my life before that, like sometimes I have to think about it because I don't really think about it all that much anymore. Even the whole awakening journey, it just seems like a dream now to me. Like I remember I did an interview, and then this guy asked me just straight up, "How did you wake up?" And I had to dig into my story a little bit. It's like even the entire spiritual unfoldments just became part of the dream in a sense, right? So yeah, I as you said, I was always a content creator even before there was any social media. I remember at 14, that's the earliest I can remember filming things. I was just, in my house filming myself, like doing like really crazy stunts for reasons I don't really know. It's just like a force that perpetuated me to like do really intense physical stunts. For example, I would throw a bike against like my the wall of my house and then just let it hit my head, and I'll throw a trash can up to the sky and just let it hit myself, and riding a bicycle down the stair in my house, like breaking my walls and stuff, and faking seizures at school. And I was doing like jackass pranks before there was jackass. And the funny thing is, after I started doing that, like a few weeks later, Jackass came out. I was like, we were having this very similar idea. It's almost like the force of nature, or the force of the creative force of the universe, just kind of tap into different people at the same time. I think that's kind of common in a sense. Like I think Newton and Leibniz like had the same idea for calculus, like at the same time or something, or Darwin or some other person. Yeah, and then that just led me to questioning like creativity and the whole creative process. But we can dig into that a little bit later because I know you're into art as well. So yeah, I was filming a lot. I was just been filming my whole life since I was 14 years old, and I was really into athletics all my life as well. I remember around the same time, like 14, 15 years old. Um, I just wanted to be really fast. I just wanted to sprint really fast because my favorite animal was the cheetah. I was really obsessed with like big cats and just cheetahs, especially because I was obsessed with speed. Yeah. And then I just wanted to like be the fastest like being on the planet or something like that. I just had this like random drive to do that. I don't know why. Couldn't really tell you why. And then I got into weightlifting because apparently I look at sprinters and they were all like jacked. And I was like, okay, if I want to sprint faster, I probably have to lift some weights. That's how I got into fitness and lifting weights. So I got into that and I trained myself to attain like a 40-inch vertical jump, which is pretty elite. It's I think like the NBA average is only like 32 inches, like standing, not like running. Yeah. And then after that, I was like, okay, I'm done with jumping and speed. Now I'm gonna do like power. So I started doing powerlifting. So and then attaining like a 300-pound bench press at like 150 pounds. That was my goal. It's like I'm gonna bench twice my body weight. Yeah, and then I was like, okay, I'm done with that. I'm gonna move on. So once I accomplish a goal, I just forget about it. I just move on to the next thing. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna do some squats and deadlifts. And then I had like a 400-pound raw squat, no equipments, and then 500-pound deadlifts. Yeah, and then after I'm done with that, I was like, okay, what I'm gonna do now? Because I was still into fitness, so I'm gonna do bodybuilding. I'm gonna look as aesthetic as I possibly can. So I started getting into the whole like macro stuff, and the whole fitness industry, fitness community at the time was pretty small, um, and I was doing like bulking videos documenting my food day eating. I think at the time that was like probably the only video on the internet that documented like a bodybuilder just eating as much as he can. But now it's like a trend, pretty much. Yeah. So and then after that, I started getting into philosophy because I realized, okay, I got this body thing like, taken care of in terms of like goal. Yeah, I reached all my goal in terms of like, the fitness and the physical level. And I was like, okay, if I want to continue to upgrade this avatar, I have to upgrade my brain and my mind. And so I started reading a lot, just reading everything I can get my hands on, starting from like psychology, like pop psychology, and like, and then moving on to like neuroscience and philosophy, especially philosophy of the mind. Because, just like the body, I was doing a lot of research on how to like run faster, jumping higher, and getting stronger. I was reading a lot about the mind. How do you improve creativity? That was like one of the factors. How do you improve creativities, and how do you become more intelligent. And then ultimately, I realized that in order to really expand the mind, you can't just read books. You can't even just like do those brain games to make your brain go faster and whatever. I did a little bit of that as well. You have to sort of have direct experience into the nature of the mind. So that's when I started to read a little bit about like Osho and Alan Watts and more like Eastern philosophy, because before that I was just Western philosophy pretty much. Then I came across people that have done psychedelics and the descriptions of their experiences, and I was like, wow, like I have to experience that. And it seems like that's the next step into upgrading the mind, is to experience some of those outer states. So I did a little bit of psychedelics. I didn't do too much of it. I wouldn't call myself a psychonaut, but I experimented with them in my late 20s. That was about the same time I got into meditation. I was like, okay, if you want to sort of access those states like sober naturally, you probably have to do some meditation. And I started to look into meditation, and then TM was the first thing that I dabbled with. And I even took the TM course. It was like $700. And then because I paid $700, I kind of had to practice, but I liked it. I was doing it ever since I took the course. I was doing it every day, just like they asked, like, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon. I did that for about 2 years. Yeah. And then around that phase, I was, I was doing a lot of pickup at that phase too. Yeah. Like just trying to pick up as many girls as I can. It's just part of the whole package. I don't know why I did it really. Um, yeah, it was just like a part of the package to explore like what is reality, what the fuck is this, and who am I? Yeah, and then I guess the meditation path just took me down the rabbit hole, pretty much like a lot of people. Yeah, at first I just wanted to be more creative and whatever, just upgrading this Mitsu, this brain. But then I got more than what I asked for. There was a lot of like really dark moments, dark night of the soul, a lot of suffering, but also a lot of really blissful experiences. And then I think 3 years after I started meditating, I went to my first retreat. And then that was when you spoke about the four path model. So maybe you're familiar with the period called the rising and passing away that Dana Ingram talks about, which is, I guess, your first true mystical experience. And not counting the psychedelic experiences, because I think when I took psychedelics, I didn't really get any insights about non-duality or spirituality or awakening, because at that time I wasn't familiar with those concepts, so my mind wasn't framed for that. But some people, they don't have any references and take psychedelics, they have no self-experience or whatever. But I didn't get that. It was more like, okay, I took psychedelics and a lot of cool visuals. I can sort of use this idea for my like videos and creative projects. Yeah, and I think the backdrop of all this is music. Yeah, I've been playing the violin since I was 5, so that I've been playing violin since I was 5, and I still play now, not as much as before, but music and athletics and then meditation, like those are the cornerstones. And I realized that meditation sort of brought all those different endeavors, creative endeavors together, and then I see through the interconnectedness of how like the creative force doesn't really care how you express it. It could be like riding a bike down the stairs, or for some people, it could be like drinking massive amount of alcohol or taking drugs or exploring psychedelics or meditation, painting. I also do some paintings and sculptures and all that stuff. It comes from the same source and from the same force. And that same force happens to also have this desire, quote unquote, desire to wake up to itself. And that's when I realized the whole awakening process is driven by the same force. And that force doesn't care if it's creative, destructive. That's why I go on a path. You have dark nights, you have like your spiritual highs. It's the same force. And the paradox, of course, from my perspective right now, is the force has always been awake to itself. We just got to get out of the way. Yeah. So all that energy that I spend on, doing a lot of creative stunts or endeavors or making creative projects, making videos, making films, I guess you could say that I was trying to like grasp onto this energy and then use it for personal gains, there's nothing wrong with that, it's part of the process. But in order for that for that force to fully recognize and wake up to itself, like I had to get out of the way, or the artist had to get out of the way. Yeah, for that creative potential to fully express itself. And that, I think, is what Awaken is about. Is about that. It's about the force of nature recognizing itself without a separation, without a center point, without any kind of grasping, without any resistance. It's just the what is, and the what is infinitely creative. Yeah, I think there was this book by Peter Rawson called "The Genius of Being." Yeah, he was talking about how genius, the being itself, is genius. And then I talked about earlier about how, like, creative ideas find different avatars to express itself through, and I realized that there are no individual geniuses. There is this force of nature, this being, this consciousness, whatever you want to call it. Buddhists call it emptiness. The pure potentiality of it, it's being, and it's infinitely creative. And when you're in the state of, what I call the natural state, then it does feel like every single moment is creative. It feels like you're giving birth to the whole universe, or you're giving birth to the unborn, like moment to moment. And all the highs that I get, all the dopamines hit that I got from just making the art and playing music, or even athletics too. Same force, even athletics, athletes get into a flow state, all the highs that I got from those endeavors, I actually get it now, like every single moment of my life, just by doing nothing pretty much. But still, I'm still, creating, I'm still lifting weights, I'm still making videos and playing music, all that stuff. But it's coming from a radically different perspective. Now I guess it can feel like I'm creating without a doer, without a creator. And it's just kind of, I just let this creative force do its own thing. And I just kind of have to get out of the way and sit in this self-driving car and experience reality that way in an infinitely creative process. Yeah. And then I guess you could say that all the different endeavors that I did was more like just the byproduct of, accessing this force of nature that is just pretty much the drive for existence and non-existence as well, because they're two sides of the same coin. The same force that makes a bird fly and makes a cheetah hunts down a gazelle, makes the blooming of the flowers, and how the architectures here in Miami came about through that force of nature. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, that's the infinite bra right there, man. There's so much there there's so many, like this. It's like the tree in my background. It's like there's so many branches. There's so many ways we can take this conversation. There's a couple of things that, as you were talking about, like trying all these things, and let me try one thing, and I'm gonna try the next thing. Like that reminded me of like Tim Ferriss, like the human guinea pig. Like I'm gonna experiment with all these different things, from doing these jackass stunts to all these different forms of art to let me get a 40-inch vert, let me bench press this much, let me build a crazy physique, let me master the mind, let me meditate, let me see what forms of consciousness. Yeah. So there's like all these layers and all these things that you did. And then to me, and then you mentioned creativity, and this is like one of the things that about you for me is like, wow, you really are creative in so many different domains, because usually people choose like one art form, but then it's like, I'm going on your site and I'm just looking through all of the stuff you've done, from photography to sculptures to drawings, and then your videos themselves have this very creative element. And like the stuff you do is just, it's like, it's different, and it's like, you wouldn't expect the things that you do. It's always switching it up. So I'm just wondering, and then you've been playing the violin since 5 years old, and you're saying that this kind of creativity culminated, like it led to Awakening. So I'm just wondering if there was just something that made you more open to creativity, or there was something that I don't know. It's just like there's something about like this aspect of creativity in your being, or that like you gravitate to trying something new, trying something different, doing something a different way.
Yeah, I think I was just, in a sense, very sensitive to that energy that I talked about earlier, just that the force of nature. I remember I was 5 years old, like I put like my finger inside my door crack and I just slammed it as hard as I can. And I just wanted to like see like what's inside my finger. So I did that like I did it over and over again and then nothing really happened. So like one day I just did it really, really hard and then, like I saw my bones and then like the three-fourths of my finger came off. This is actually one of the stories I used to tell my Tinder dates. And then I got four stitches without anesthesia and that was like one of the most painful experiences of my life, man. I don't know. I don't know why I just said that. I just think that the whole creative destruction thing is I'm very familiar with that energy. And again, I can't tell you why. I can't tell you why I dabble in all those things because when I was doing the 40-inch vertical thing and even the powerlifting thing, I wasn't doing it for sports. I wasn't doing it for anything. Yeah, I wasn't doing it for like views online because at that time there was no internet yet. Yeah, and then I don't know. It's just I guess I was kind of just in tune to it in a sense, and that same kind of intuition again. I used it to apply it to meditation and awakening because people always ask me like, you know, what techniques do you use? How do you do this? How much time do you spend on this technique? How do you meditate? Should I sit down or should I lay down? Like, what are insights? But like, I never asked anyone about that on my journey, really. They just came to me, and I think it's just kind of the same. Um, I guess you could say the same, not skill set, but the same idea can be applied to something like a perfect pitch. Yeah, it's just somehow you're just in tune with whatever is arising.